We start this edition of the news with the big news coming in from Pakistan, where former Pakistani President Pervez Musharraf has been awarded a death sentence for high treason by a special court in Pakistan. Now, Musharraf himself is in a hospital in Dubai, a country with which Pakistan does not have an extradition treaty. So it remains to be seen how the sentence can be carried out. The court issued a split verdict with two judges favouring the death sentence. The charge against the former president is of high treason and abrogating the Pakistani constitution. Remember, Musharraf came to power in Pakistan through a military coup and ruled from the year 1999 to 2008. In 2013, he was booked for treason by the former government in Pakistan, thus becoming the first Pakistani army chief to be charged with high treason. He had pleaded guilty to all the 5 charges pressed against him. Musharraf has the right to appeal against the sentence at the Supreme Court of Pakistan within 30 days. Now on your screens is what former Pakistani President Pervez Musharraf had to say while he was in the hospital in Dubai last.
ये केस मेरी नज़र में बिल्कुल बेबुनियाद है, क्योंकि मैं तो गद्दारी छोड़े, मैंने तो इस मुल्क के लिए बहुत खिदमत अंजाम दिए हैं, जंगें लड़ा हुआ हूँ मैं, और मुल्क की खिदमत मैंने 10 साल की है, तो इसलिए मैं समझता हूँ बेबुनियाद है। अब यहाँ इस केस में मुझे सुनाई नहीं दे रहा है, सुनवाई मेरी नहीं हो रही है। सिर्फ ये नहीं है कि मेरी सुनवाई नहीं हो रही है, मेरा जो लॉयर है सलमान सफ्तर, उस तक को सुन नहीं रहे हैं। तो मेरी नज़र में ये बहुत ज़्यादती हो रही है, इंसाफ का तकाजा पूरा नहीं किया जा रहा है।
Now being joined by our Pakistani Bureau Chief Anas Malik, live from Islamabad. Anas, talk to us. This is a huge decision coming from the courts in Pakistan, but it's going to be extremely difficult for it to be executed.
Absolutely a huge decision in the Pakistani history by any court, where they have sentenced a former military dictator, General retired Pervez Musharraf, in the high treason case for death sentence or death penalty. Remember, Musharraf had indulged in high treason by abrogating the constitution, by imposing the state of emergency on the 3rd of November 2007. He had imprisoned the judges. He had introduced a new public order, the court order, the PCO, under which judges were asked to take oath as well. We understand, I remember very well that the then Chief Justice, Justice Iftikhar Chaudhry, had refused, and then thus took place the birth of a lawyers' movement. Now, in December 2013, the then PML-N government decided to pursue the case of high treason against Musharraf. On the 31st of March 2014, he was formally indicted, he was formally charge-sheeted as well. And then since then, the case had been ongoing. In the past 3 months, we have seen that this case was heard on almost daily basis by the special court. Now, this is a 3-member special court that constitutes that is headed by Justice Waqar Said, who is of the Peshawar High Court. It has High Court judges by and large, and it was constituted on the orders of the Supreme Court against the petition that was done by the government back then. So by and large, the then government was very, very persuasive. Musharraf had been given a lot of opportunities to give his defense. He had chose to abstain himself. Then the case was heard on ex-party cases. It was earlier to be scheduled on the 28th of November, and now today on the 17th of December, the verdict is out. Yes, Krishna.
Anas, stay with us. We have reactions coming in from the opposition in Pakistan. We have a tweet coming in from Bilawal Bhutto. That's there on your screens. Democracy is the best revenge. G.A. Bhutto. That's the tweet on your screens with that image being posted by Bilawal Bhutto Zardari. Anas, clearly, the opposition in Pakistan giving a thumbs up to this decision.
Well, absolutely, Krishna. Bilawal's mother, the late Prime Minister of Pakistan, Benazir Bhutto Shaheed, she was the one who was standing robustly against Musharraf back in the day. She was the one who had pursued the cases as well. She was an integral part of the lawyers' movement back in the day, back in 2007, against the imposition of emergency. Remember, when on the 3rd of November 2007, Musharraf imposed emergency, it was a blackout in Pakistan. It was a media blackout in Pakistan. The private media was put off for about 111 days. days. Some anti-dictator channels were also put off, such as Geo News, were put off for about 200 days, roughly 200 days. So Benazir Bhutto, she had been strongly advocating against the imposition of the emergency by Musharraf back then. So by and large, this decision that has been given by the special court, it is seen as a victory of democracy over dictatorship, and that is why we saw the tweet coming in from Bilawal Bhutto, the son of Benazir Bhutto Shaheed, the late Prime Minister of Pakistan, that because this was a very famous quote of Benazir, that democracy is the best revenge. Back in the day, we saw when Benazir was assassinated, this was the same slogan that Bilawal Bhutto had said as well in his very first presser back when he was a student as well. And today we are seeing the continuation to that statement, the fact that that statement is being brought into that statement has been brought to light, and that it has been fulfilled through the courts. A dictator who had indulged in high treason by abrogating the constitution has finally met his fate through the law, and the law said that he should be punished, that too through death penalty, and that death penalty has been awarded by the special court that was constituted on the order of the Supreme Court. Yes, Krishna.
Our Pakistan Bureau Chief Anas Malik joining us with live updates from Islamabad as we continue to track this big international story that's breaking at this hour. Now, we also have Mr. Amar Shaheen, senior journalist, joining us live from Lahore in Pakistan. Amar Shaheen, thank you so much for being with us here on this broadcast. Talk to us. Fact of the matter is that Pervez Musharraf is in Dubai. Pakistan does not have an extradition treaty with Dubai, with the United Arab Emirates. Do you think the Pakistani government will pursue this case?
Pervez Musharraf is in Dubai, but the fact of the matter is that the Pakistani government and the current judiciary, the superior judiciary... can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Please go ahead.
Yes, the fact of the matter is that it was the very judiciary, the superior judiciary and the Pakistani regime, the government, that allowed Musharraf to get out of the country after he was put under house arrest for medical reasons, after which he was seen dancing to the music of Indian tunes in Dubai. Video went viral. So if there was any resolve to make sure that justice happens, he would have never been allowed mid-treason case to go to Dubai to dance on Indian melodies. So, I mean, anybody who thinks that there are practical implications to this verdict would be living in a fool's paradise. You were talking about Bilawal Bhutto Zardari. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari's grandfather, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, was hanged by the very judiciary, but it was one of the practical decisions that they took. Afterwards, the same judges who hanged Bhutto came on television and said that they were coerced and forced to do so. Justice Naseem Hassan Shah was the judge at that time. Similarly, when Nawaz Sharif the former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif was convicted, the judge who convicted him, a video was leaked of the judge who said that he was being blackmailed and put under a lot of pressure to give the wrong verdict, wrong according to the judge, against the elected Prime Minister of Pakistan. Right. But if we look at the cases pertaining to military chiefs and the ISI chiefs, we can see that in Asghar Khan case, for example, it was very clear, and it was even confessed by the Chief of Army Staff and ISI Chief, that they literally robbed Mehran Bank and gave money to their favorite politicians against the Bhutto family, and ultimately they won as well. And people got very excited that some justice perhaps is going to take place. Of course it didn't. Even after the confessions of the accused, there was this government is trying to defer that case along with Musharraf's case. Right. So any case that has any relationship to a military dictator or the powers that be, it's only going to be a facade. There's going to be no practical implications of such cases. And even in this case, the government is has already tried its best two different ways. One is deferment. They're trying to delay it. Now, they're delaying it through their Attorney General. They're also delaying it by asking the courts that what about others? Of course, if the military dictator imposed emergency and, put the constitution in abeyance, of course, he wasn't acting alone. Of course, the corps commanders, and obviously they don't name the corps commanders, but all the other puppet politicians that he used, what about everyone else getting the punishment? And it has been frustrating the court, the judge saying that, is this a delaying tactic? However, the judge knows himself very well, that the implications are going to be zero. The Attorney General of Pakistan, basically the government, has been doing everything possible to spoil the case. The role of the Attorney General, even in this particular case, has been strongly criticized by the judges themselves.
Right.
And ultimately, they are going to leave such lacunas in this case, which will make overturning of this very straightforward decision very easy. This has been the history of Pakistan.
Right.
I will believe that there are implications
Fair
once
enough,
something practical happens.
Fair enough. Made your point very clear. Anas Malik, then talk to us. What are you hearing from your sources in the Pakistani government? What exactly is going on?
Well, for the time being, the Pakistani government is awaiting the full verdict on this. A short order was issued that comprised of 4 pages. A full verdict is to be issued, as per Justice Waqar said, in the next 48 hours. So the Pakistani government would wait for this for the full verdict, for the complete order to be issued, and then they would devise a strategy. But what I understand is that Musharraf through his lawyers would certainly be appealing in the court. He has the time limit of 30 days that is given by law in the higher court, and that is only the Supreme Court is where he can knock. But a technicality that has to be looked is the fact that this special court was constituted on the advice or on the instructions of the Supreme Court. So whether or not would this be a review that is being challenged in the Supreme Court of its one of its sub benches, or whether or not this is a separate petition that would give Musharraf some breathing space. But by and large, the Pakistani government is, as we speak, they're at a wait and watch policy. Yes, Krishna.
Anas Malik joining us with the latest on what is happening in Pakistan as this big judgment is being received. Pervez Musharraf being handed the death sentence. Amar Shaheen continues to be with us on this broadcast. Amar, you've made a point very clear that this entire thing is a facade. This is just judgment from a court. Very good chance it's going to be delay. In a sense, after a point, expecting Pervez Musharraf to pass away naturally.
Of course, there are going to be delays, and the petition to basically rule out after they have already murdered an elected prime minister through the judiciary. The judiciary is still sitting on that very case as on the review petition. The guy is dead. He's been hanged. That's how long it can take for actual justice to take place, forever. So, and in this case, I mean, it obviously is very clear that this is going to take forever, or until the superior judiciary allows any kind of an appeal based on the fact that the government of Pakistan is not really fighting the case well at all. And the judge's remarks were, they were asked that Musharraf should be allowed to come and defend himself in the court. And the judges said, obviously no one's stopping Musharraf to come back to Pakistan and face the legal consequences of his actions. The judges said, but you are defending. The government of Pakistan is defending the former dictator. It's very clear. The government of Pakistan has a very clear stance that anyone to do with the military establishment, no matter what they've done, they will be defending the cases. And they have gone, it's not underhand. Underhand, what's happening will be, that's what the future will reveal. But right now, it is very clear that the government of Pakistan is doing whatever possible to prevent Pervez Musharraf's final indictment after review, and to present such a lousy case. And I think this regime can get away with it because they're so incompetent in everything they've done, including the extension of the former Chief of Army Staff. The judiciary had to come in and say, this is illegal, and yet we will let you do it for 6 months and we'll give you a chance to amend your rules and laws and constitution. So, the judiciary had to come and kind of disgrace itself and say, okay, it's illegal, okay, we took a chance that, you might be able to defend this case, and you're so incompetent that now we have to bend the rules and allow the Chief of Army Staff to get an illegal extension as the chief.
Fair enough.
So,
Amar, I think we're digressing away from the topic over here. Let's just stick to Pervez Musharraf and the death sentence itself. It's a huge decision in itself coming from the Pakistani courts in the first place.
It is an unprecedented. A military chief has never been awarded a death sentence, but the other previous judgments that I was talking about are also unprecedented. You need to take people's mind off the ground realities of what's happening in Pakistan. So the situation is so bad. These kind of hodgepodge facades will be created to inspire people that the change is coming. But I mean, we both know that the change is not going to come from the judges who are selected in the same way that the government is selected by the powers that be. And this is a lower court. Once the appeal goes to the Supreme Court, the doctrine of necessity, nazariya-e-zarurat as we call it in Pakistan, takes place, where every military dictator so far in the history of Pakistan has been allowed to continue as a free man. His illegal actions have already been legitimized by the Supreme Court, nothing less than the Supreme Court of Pakistan. It was always the judiciary that legitimized the actions of a military dictator when they held the constitution in abeyance. How would it change? The precedents are there that the judiciary will always allow military dictators legitimize their illegal rule.
Amar Shaheen joining us live from Lahore with that perspective on this big story that we're tracking. Pervez Musharraf being given the death sentence. The man who ruled Pakistan from the years 1999 to 2008, who is currently hospitalized in Dubai, has been given the death sentence. A 2-1 split judgment from a 3-judge bench. And we have to remind the viewers who are watching this broadcast that Pakistan does not have an extradition treaty with the United Arab Emirates, and hence the eventual outcome hangs in the balance. We also have our Pakistani Bureau Chief Anas Malik joining us live from Islamabad on the broadcast. Anas, at this stage, when Pakistan's ties with the United Arab Emirates remain the way they are, asking for an extradition of Pervez Musharraf will be the last thing on the government's mind.
Well, asking for extradition would not be a big deal when it comes to Musharraf, but something that is very technical is the fact that about 5 months ago or 6 months ago, if my memory jogs right, the Pakistani Federal Cabinet passed a law which amended the Pakistan Penal Code, which said that in cases of extradition, death penalty would not be applicable. Now, it was being looked. It was right after the Pakistani Foreign Minister visited the United Kingdom, so it was being looked into perspective of Ishaq Dar, the former Finance Minister of Pakistan, who continues to remain an absconder as well in the eyes of law. But its implications, because law cannot be specific, it is uniformal, it is broadened up, so its implications would certainly be on Musharraf as well. If at all he is extradited back to Pakistan, then certainly he would not be hanged in view of that amendment that was done in the PPC or the Pakistan Penal Code by the Federal Cabinet. Now, something that is very interesting is the war of words that had been ongoing between the government and the judiciary. Remember, on the 19th of November, the Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan had said that the common impression is that there are two laws, one is for the richer, one is for the poor, and then 2 days later we saw the Pakistani Chief Justice responding to that, taking a dig at the Pakistani Prime Minister, saying that he should not have indulged. And in fact, the Chief Justice of Pakistan back then had clearly mentioned that this is the first time that they are going to announce a verdict on the army chief, referring to Musharraf's case. So by and large, we are seeing a change at heart within the Pakistani judiciary as well, and the fact that they are trying to stand up and to back the rule of law. Yes, Krishna.
Anas Malik, our Pakistan Bureau Chief, joining us with that live update from Islamabad. Anas, stay with us. Amar Shaheen also joining us live from Lahore. Please stay with us. We also have now Mr. Tariq Pirzada joining us on the phone line, senior journalist from Pakistan. Mr. Tariq Pirzada, thank you so much for being with us here on WION World is One. Talk to us a historic judgment, the eventual outcome of which hangs in the balance. Mr. Tariq Pirzada, if you can hear us. I'm afraid Mr. Pirzada is not able to hear us. We are trying to fix that line and get him to speak to us. In the meanwhile, a Pakistani court has given the death sentence to Pervez Musharraf. Mr. Tariq Pirzada, senior journalist from Pakistan, joining us on the phone line. Mr. Pirzada, talk to us, a historic judgment, but the eventual outcome of which hangs in the balance. Mr. Pirzada, if you can hear us. All right, we will reconnect with him and speak to him in just a bit. In the meanwhile, on the screens now is what former Pakistani President Pervez Musharraf had to say while he was in the hospital in Dubai last.
ये केस मेरी नज़र में बिल्कुल बेबुनियाद है, क्योंकि मैं तो गद्दारी छोड़े, मैंने तो इस मुल्क के लिए बहुत खिदमत सर अंजाम दिए हैं, जंगें लड़ा हुआ हूँ मैं, और मुल्क की खिदमत मैंने 10 साल की है, तो इसलिए मैं समझता हूँ बेबुनियाद है। अब यहाँ इस केस में मुझे सुनाई नहीं दे रहा है, सुनवाई मेरी नहीं हो रही है। सिर्फ ये नहीं कि मेरी सुनवाई नहीं हो रही है, मेरा जो लॉयर है सलमान सफ्तर, उस तक को सुन नहीं रहे हैं। तो मेरी नजर में ये बहुत ज्यादती हो रही है, इंसाफ का तकाजा पूरा नहीं किया जा रहा है।
Now we have Mr. Anwar Beg, Senator from Pakistan, joining us on the phone. Mr. Anwar Beg, thank you so much for being with us here on WION World is One as this big story is breaking. Talk to us. This is a historic judgment coming in from the courts in Pakistan, unprecedented, but then again, a lot remains to be done for it to be executed.
Well, I think it was time in Pakistan that democracy flourishes. As you know, that we've had a history of military dictators in Pakistan over the last 5-7 decades. So I think it was time that the courts made a decision that military takeovers is not at all welcomed by any civilized society in the world today. So, though I think it's a delayed judgment, but nevertheless, we feel that this decision could be very good for democracy in Pakistan.
All right, I just want to understand, for a decision to come, like it's a 2-1 split judgment, and we've also seen the courts intervene in the renewal of the tenure of the Pakistani Army Chief, the current Pakistani Army Chief. Are you seeing a change in the way the judiciary is performing in the country?
No, I think it's like any other judiciary, like even in India, there could be split decisions. There could be a couple of judges agreeing, some not agreeing. So these are quite normal practices in the judicial system of the world. So I feel that nothing is going to change. And as regards the current Army Chief's extension is concerned, I mean, there's a Supreme Court judgment. And I think the government of the day and the opposition parties in the parliament are following that in the true sense. And I think whatever advice has been given by the Supreme Court of Pakistan, I think the parliament is going to pick that up in the due course of time and get it organized and put it on the right footing, whatever lacunas the Supreme Court found in the Army Act.
Anwar Beg, Senator from Pakistan, joining us. Sir, before we let go of you, I also wanted to ask you, it is the fact of the matter at the moment is that Pakistan does not have a treaty for extradition. It does not have the legal means to get Pervez Musharraf back into Pakistan. And also, from what we understand, the Pakistani government has not been extremely keen on pursuing the case in the first place. So where does that leave things?
Well, I think Mr. Pervez Musharraf still has options to go to the Supreme Court. I mean, this judgment has come from a high court. So I think he still has far more opportunities to go to the Supreme Court. Who knows? Supreme Court might overturn this judgment. So I think the options are still available with Mr. Musharraf. And let's see how things take place in due course of time.
Anwar Beg, Senator from Pakistan, joining us live on the broadcast. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Let's quickly get a closing comment in from Mr. Amar Shaheen, who continues to be with us from Lahore live. Amar Shaheen, you've heard what Anwar Beg has also had to say. Can you get a quick reaction from you on that?
Talk to Anwar Beg about the fact that their government created a prosecution party that was prosecuting Musharraf initially, and this government sacked everybody. Their prosecution was doing a really good job trying to convict Musharraf, and they sacked everybody and they hired extremely incompetent people, as per the words of the judge who's given this verdict. And he said the prosecution doesn't even know how to submit a request in the court, and your purpose was just to waste today, the day of the verdict. So it would have been very interesting to know that what is PML-N, the former ruling party of Pakistan, think about the way this government is, taking care of this case. Also, President Pervez Musharraf is saying he's not being heard. Nobody's stopping President Pervez Musharraf. He's attending weddings and events and functions in Dubai. Nobody's stopping President Pervez Musharraf to go to Pakistani court, as he had been asking all the politicians that were convicted during his 10-year regime to go to the court and represent himself and say what he wants to say. His lawyers also argued that Musharraf was not being heard, and the court said that the government and his lawyers are being heard, which means practically Musharraf is being heard. So Musharraf playing the victim here, that he had to rule Pakistan as if someone was forcing him to rule Pakistan and break the constitution of Pakistan, is just, I don't know who is trying to fool by these statements.
Amar Shaheen joining us with that perspective live from Lahore in Pakistan. Thank you, Amar, for being with us here on the broadcast for that big story that we're tracking. Pakistani High Court giving the death sentence to a former military chief and leader of the country, Pervez Musharraf. But will this decision be finally done on the ground? Big question marks remain. But with that, we need to wrap things up here on this edition of the news. Thank you so much for watching. This is Krishna Kumar signing off.